Well, now that we're all annoyed again.
It wouldn't be a podcast. Welcome to A More Philly Union, the podcast where we swear to talk about the Philly Union, the whole Philly Union, and nothing but the Philly Union with as few digressions as possible. We are your hosts. I'm Eric.
I'm C.
And I'm Paul.
And this is a later edition of the podcast, getting a later start. Let's jump into the housekeeping. And my question for you guys is, do you guys hear that sound?
What sound?
That is a podcast power up. So with this episode, we are on now episode 10.
Double digits.
We are double digits, which means we get our first real badge from our podcast hoster for publishing 10 podcasts. I mean, I guess I am putting the cart in front of the horse a little bit as we are recording now, and I have not actually posted this yet, but let's assume
close enough.
The world doesn't end in the next couple hours, and this is now posted. So we are now up at episode 10. And our next badge, I guess, our little, I'll call it the podcast power up, comes in one of two varieties. Either we hit 50 published episodes or we get 1,000 downloads. Now, to just put some numbers with it, we are currently, as of 9:40 p.m., so just a little over an hour ago, with 9 episodes.
On April 25th.
On April 25th, 2023. We have a total of 161 downloads. So we're not exactly 1/5 of the way towards the 1,000 downloads. However, the traffic has been picking up the past couple of weeks. So, hopefully the trend will continue to accelerate. So current trend will probably hit 50 episodes before we hit 1,000 downloads. But if you guys want, I can always edit this out. But I was going to throw out an incentive to listeners to kind of get the word out. I'll say this: if we hit the 1,000 download mark before we hit the 50 episodes, let's make a donation to the Union Foundation.
Absolutely.
So if we can hit that 1,000 download mark before we hit 50 episodes, we'll make a donation. We'll talk about more. I didn't want to volunteer the dollar amount without writing this past you guys. But hey, why not? If it works for PBS, why can't it work for us?
I thought it was gonna be something far more embarrassing than that.
Oh yeah, no. I was very excited when I knew we were coming out on episode 10. Cool. Just some other really quick stats here. So we have 9 episodes so far. Total time of episodes over 7 hours. We've had 161 downloads of our podcast. Probably 150 of them are me, but or more to the point, YouTube. We've had 292 views on our episodes on YouTube. Again, probably 250 of them are me. No. Anyone want to guess what the most downloaded episode of our podcast is? Which one?
Oh gosh, I have no idea.
It's kind of a stab in the dark.
Yeah, it really would be. Episode 7.
Ooh, close. Episode 6.
Okay.
It's the one we all suffered together. That's when the Union went to Montreal. I think that was our first loss of the season, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know. The other thing I was going to talk about real quick was I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on how the podcast experience has been so far. I mean, I know we're kind of getting our feet under us still. I know in the production side of things, we are kind of starting to hit a stride. We record, we'll edit. We usually get them out pretty quick, get out on the socials. It's the machinery is starting to get a little bit, oiled. I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on how it's been going so far.
It's been a lot of fun. For us, I don't know if it's fun for anyone else, but I think we're really enjoying it. And if nothing else, we get to sit around and talk about this stuff that we don't do in a concerted way otherwise. So I've been really enjoying it.
I've been enjoying it as well. I think our last couple episodes have been a little bit down, just on but I have enjoyed having this time to chat with you guys about the Union and what's going on with the team, whether We like it or not, we either suffer together or we celebrate together, and it's nice.
Yeah. And I guess maybe that's a good lead into talking about the first episode, maybe the change in mood. So we are now starting week 10. So the weekend game, Toronto came to Philly for the week 9 game. Coming into this game, Union were in a, not meeting expectations. I think it's safe to say 10th place. Toronto was in 9th. Maybe it was a little boon from the soccer gods, but the weather on Saturday was, I think,
pretty atrocious.
Pretty atrocious.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which, as Jim Curtin has said, like, hey, if you want to have a street fight, we can do that. If you want to play soccer, we can do that too. So, like,
you play soccer in a monsoon, we can do that too.
Yeah, it's like, it's almost, if it's a messy game, hey, we can roll. Maybe we even do better than that. And that kind of played out.
Yeah, they really just looked good out there on Saturday, especially in the first half. Just the ball seemed to be bouncing for the Union. I don't know if it was their key was higher than Toronto's or whatever it was, but they just seemed to really mentally dominate the game, and any chance that they could play the ball into a favorable position, it just seemed to go there.
Yeah, that and on that bouncing the ball kind of thing, I felt like the Union were just intercepting so many passes that, from Toronto. And I don't know if it was the field conditions, if Toronto wasn't used to it. At BMO Field, is it a turf or is it?
I don't know offhand.
Yeah, but there were so many times it's like Toronto would pass the ball and boom, one of our midfielders is just intercepting Gazdag or Wagner or someone. It was nice to see. It was nice to see this. While the weather didn't reflect it, it felt like the soccer gods were smiling.
It felt weirdly like the momentum that they had started to pick up in the second half of the last game they played was still going somehow. I don't know. I'm sure that's not true, but that's just was the impression that that sort of turning point from last game was continuing on. So there was also like a little bit of a unintentional omen at the beginning of the game when they were talking about the weather. We were talking about how awful the weather was, and then they cut to Carranza warming up, and he just had a big smile on his face, looking absolutely unfazed. And I thought, hey, this whole thing might actually work. It was apropos of nothing, but it just, yeah. So he
was all smiles.
Mm-hmm.
It was all smiles. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Quick question. I missed this too. Before we jump into the game, Bizo was not in. I didn't catch why he wasn't in. I don't think he was even on the bench.
Yeah, mild hamstring injury is what I heard.
Okay.
So mild that they kind of hinted that he might be back for the LAFC game at midweek. But yeah, apparently it was bad enough that they decided not to risk it.
He is practicing. I noticed on their social media. So
yeah.
It's nothing too terrible.
So yeah, it did give Harriel a chance to start another game, and he did a great. He ended up doing a pretty decent job, except for as we said. Well, as you said, we'll talk about it later. But he did kind of lose a mark at one point in the game, or a couple times.
Kai Wagner was back in the lineup, which was good to see. Also, just wanted to point out the commentators on the Apple TV broadcast. Keith Costigan, who I'm not familiar with, but Mo Adu is also one of the commentators. Just wanted to point out he has played for both the Union and Toronto in his career.
Yes, he did. He started out with Toronto,
but there was a lot more love coming from him towards Philly than Toronto.
Yeah.
Also want to point out
for the team and the medical staff.
Yeah, he did
spend a lot of time with both, unfortunately.
Medical staff.
Yeah.
The Union were playing at they had that dark, it was like a black and dark blue jersey. I don't remember that.
Yeah, it's a special jersey.
Well, it's a special jersey. It's one of those ocean plastics kind of things that they recycle.
Recycled ocean plastic.
Earth Day. situation. Yeah. So
Gotcha.
I liked it
special
myself.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
It actually reminded me of one of the Decepticons, that blue and purple coloring. I forget the name of the Decepticon, but he was always one of my favorite. He was one of the fighter jets.
Yeah. That's a whole nother podcast we can jump into. Starscream versus it was like Thundercracker or something like that, or
but, well, either way, I like the Union jersey this week. I thought that was pretty cool. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend the game, but it might have been worth going through the Union store to see what they were charging for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Toronto was playing with this kind of a light greenish blue jersey. Not to spend too much time on the jerseys, but Apple TV had it listed as acid green. I made a note before I saw acid green. That's Bianchi. How do you pronounce the Italian bicycle company? Should know that. Bianchi blue looks very much reminded me of that one.
I'm not familiar, but I'll take your word for it.
Again, another sports crossover.
To Apple to be as descriptive as to say acid green too. But that's another story. Go ahead.
Well, one last thing too before the game. Moadu had mentioned that they were talking about Jim Curtin, and that he said that Curtin is a players coach. He works really well to get the most out of his players. His players really reciprocate the energy back to him and all that. So it's kind of nice to hear. Little for Curtin. Not that he doesn't even deserve it. He does, and it's nice hearing it from somebody outside the organization.
I mean, I think even the Union players have said stuff like that when they've been in interviews and talking about getting questions about Curtin, and they talk about how he stands up for them, and he expects a lot from them, but he gets it out of them.
Yeah.
And one other change to the Union starting lineup, at least, was that Flock wasn't in, and McGlynn started.
Oh, right.
Don't know if that was a conscious decision to put a more attacking lineup out there or what. But yeah, so it was a chance for Jack to get a relatively rare start.
Yeah, I mean, and for me, McLean is, using the moniker of Young Guns. He had a presence on the field during the game, and we'll go into details, but I'm really liking what McLean's doing out in the field this season.
Yeah. No, he's playing well, and he's integrating into the team well. And his passing is astounding. But he's even starting to pick up on the defensive side of the game. Like he's not as much of a liability as he was last year out there, where he almost didn't seem to do any defending. He's definitely bought into the team approach and really has been coming along well.
Yeah, I feel like this year it's looking good. Right? It's looking good, like I want to say breakout year, but I feel like he's really going to start making a name for himself for the team.
Yep.
All right, let's jump into the game.
Talking about bouncing balls bouncing the right way for the Union, right? The first goal didn't take long.
Yeah, 16th minute was our first goal.
I mean, they were all over Toronto from the start, though. I mean, you watched that first 10 minutes of the game, and it was just any chance Toronto tried to get on the ball and get it upfield, there was, like you said, a Union player intercepting and getting it right back, into the Toronto half. It just felt like it was a matter of moments.
It's that when the cameraman can take a coffee break and just leave the camera aimed at the Toronto side of the field and just go get a coffee and then come back, and you wouldn't miss anything.
Yeah. And then tragedy struck for Toronto in the 16th minute.
Yeah, that in that melee of just that constant attack inside the goal box.
Defender tried to clear it, tried to kick it over his own end line just to get the ball out of play, and into another defender.
Yep, deflects off another defender and just goes right into the goal. And good news is the not pretty goals count just as many points as the pretty ones.
And of the own goals I've seen, that one I still think, it's definitely an own goal. There's no doubt about it, but it really did seem like it was the Union's pressure that really caused that own goal. So I think it was still a Union goal, even though, I know, I understand it, but
I would agree.
Pressure is there. So
and I think even the commentators made a mention of that, in the game. And I think you're right. I mean, definitely Gazdag and Ura were in the box. I can't remember if Carranza was up there as well, McGlynn. They definitely were putting pressure, and then 16 minutes in, it just crystallized into an unfortunate goal for Toronto and a lucky goal for us.
Yeah. Yeah. Crystallized. That's a good word. I like that. It's, all this energy focus on their end of the field, but at some point it's got to crystallize, and it did.
Well, it didn't stop.
Well, it didn't stop.
The Union. One of the things that came out of this game was the Union really felt like the Union of last July.
100%.
And they got the first goal, but they weren't happy with that, and it just kept going.
We didn't have to wait very long.
When was the next strike?
4 minutes later.
Yep.
4 minutes later was the next goal. And again, that was Carranza and Ura connecting in the box, and with that pressure, and Carranza got that nice cross across the box to Ura, comes right at his feet, and he took the shot. There was a slight deflection off the one defender, but I mean, it was headed towards goal. And then it went, and the Union were up 2-0.
And there was a brief review because Carranza did have to step out to keep the ball in, and that whole dust up with Sean Johnson, the keeper of
that's right, it was off that play.
There was
that started?
It was quite a complicated play ultimately, with all the passing and Carranza's heroics to keep the ball in play. So they did review it, but it still came up goal, which was good.
Yeah. What's that, Paul?
I was going to ask I can't remember if that one started off of a corner or not, and then that's where Johnson and Carranza got tangled up close to the end line. But I mean, Carranza had his body in position and he controlled the ball, and it really, the keepers get a lot of leeway in the box, but only to an extent. And Carranza did a good job getting that ball where it needed to go.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure, obviously, as a professional, Johnson has to complain to the referee and try to make his argument. But I mean, I think even he understood he wasn't going to win that one.
Yeah. And it was after that second goal that the commentator, Keith Costigan, mentioned, it's like, and I had the quote written down here, it's feeling more like Philly tonight.
Yeah.
This high pressure, just not letting off the gas, and just getting your opponent against the rope, and you just don't stop.
So that was like, while you're mentioning the commentators, it wasn't an almost all Union affair, no matter what language you were in, because we had Mo for English, Carlos Ruiz for Spanish.
Oh wow,
really?
And Sebastian Letou for French.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, it was only going to get worse for Toronto before the half ended,
and it would get worse. Yep.
I mean, the pressure just continued over and over. I was really impressed. I mean, it was back and forth. I'm not saying that the Toronto didn't get it up the field at all. They certainly did, but it never seemed to warrant a real concern. I don't even know if they got a shot off in that first half, but before the half closed, the Union got a third goal, and it wasn't a well-attended game because the rain washed out a lot of the fans, even though they started on time.
Yeah.
But it must have been a party down there at Subaru Park.
I'm sure it was. Yeah. Leading up to that third goal, I know the Union had a couple attempts where, depending on who was in the midfield, if it was McGlynn or Gazdag, there were these great leading passes just up the field, and like Ura or Carranza are just running after it, like with defenders on their heels. I think one of them was called offside. It was Harriel actually made a pass, and Gazdag ran after it, and it's just these great fast breakaways. It was great to see. It wasn't just one, it wasn't twice, it was at least like three of them.
Right.
And it was on one of those breakaways that Ura got that third goal from Gazdag, and it was just like that whole, like a full step ahead of the defender. He just knew it was going to go in. He had that
That was the one where he had the breakaway and he just slotted it in from like 15 yards out, and just right to the keeper's right side. The keeper had almost no chance at it, and just a cool finish from a well run piece of control, and like you said, that pass was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, just one thing I noted in that first half, there was this quick, confident passing, quick, what do you call that, transition play, and it was just clicking. It was so great to see.
I actually wrote that as GOL, goal. It felt more like
goal tour. Hey, we're multinational here.
It was also after that goal that I wrote, maybe the key is not having as many fans in the stadium.
Or having just the right number of right fans.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
The first yellow card, at least I have in my notes, came in stoppage time. Insigne for Toronto. He's kind of their big designated player.
Well, Jack Elliott got one around.
Oh, yes.
Earlier.
Well, getting the first one for Toronto then. Insigne was mouthing off at the ref, and he gave him the yellow card. But I just wanted to point out that Toronto is maintaining the tradition of signing diminutive Italian players. So with Giovinco, so
apparently at one point Glesnes was standing next to Insigne, and they were laughing at the big difference between the two of them. But going into halftime up 3-0, the Union had to be feeling good, and they were just looking dominant. They just really just turned it on in this game. It was great to see.
Second half, go ahead.
Really quickly, there was a stat that when Philadelphia was leading at the half in the last 12 games before this one, they won. So basically, better stated, 12 straight wins when leading at the half. So, which I find interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it got bad enough that at halftime, Toronto took out the Lucas Minalton, who was the defender who, I don't think he was the one who did the clearance, but he was the one that the ball went off of for the first goal. And they took off Bernardeschi. One of their big players. They took him off at halftime, which I honestly didn't notice when we were watching the game.
I heard that and wondered at it, but I wasn't sure what to think about it. So,
yes, second half, I feel like Toronto was starting to at least stem the bleeding a little bit, slowing down the Union. Not so much that the Union didn't get their fourth goal. I got to say, between Carranza, Ura, and Gazdag, I felt like the three of them were really just finding each other. And like the triad of doom. They just,
it's all triangles.
It's all triangles. I always say the secret to life is find the triangles.
Yep. The three horsemen of the apocalypse for Toronto this week. But I'm looking at the box score, and actually Bedoya was credited for 2, because they do the first and second assist in this box the scoring summary, and Bedoya is in there twice as well. Carranza's in there twice, Gazdag's in that twice, and Bedoya is the other 2 spots in those 3 goals.
Good. Yeah. And that fourth goal got Ura a hat trick.
That's right.
Which, man, they really sneak up on you when they were saying a hat trick. I was like, whoa, hold on.
Yeah. One of the only bad things about this game is having to say Ura so much. But I'll take it. I will suffer through that if it means we have a result.
Sure. Yeah.
It was the first Union hat trick since Gazdag scored one against Toronto in the season finale last year.
Man, what about Providence here or what? But wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yikes.
But it's actually it is Ura's first MLS hat trick. I don't know I don't know how many hat tricks he has in his professional career, but that was highlighted in one of the articles I read that it was his first MLS hat trick. And yeah, I mean, it was impressive. It definitely felt like after that, and then they made some subs, and it felt like the Union kind of slowed the game down a bit.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Not that they weren't still pressing, not that they weren't still trying. They just kind of slowed the game down a bit.
I mean, that seems to make sense, right? With the Champions League game coming up, you got this 4-goal lead.
Right.
Let's start giving some players a little bit of a rest.
Yeah,
and the weather was getting worse too, which is a good way to get injured. So, on top of it, that's yet another reason to start parking the buses, as Marina used to say. So.
What was interesting, I mean, they pulled Orr, which is pretty usual, but they pulled McGlynn for Flock at 62nd minute.
Yeah.
So you thought it was more of a defensive shape or defensive structure that they were going to slip into with Flock there, and then just get Quinn Sullivan running on the ball as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, Toronto wasn't going to go quietly
into that good night.
Harriel did kind of lose his mark, and from the boxer here it says the 66th minute. It felt about right. A couple minutes after that set of subs. I mean, to be fair, Insigne, that was just a great curling ball. Blake made a play for it, couldn't get to it, and it was side netting. Really well done. Quality strike by a quality player.
Sure. Yeah. And there was also a slight bit of karmic retribution. I don't know if we were overreaching our karmic bank account there, but right before that goal, I noticed or heard the crowd chanting to Seven Nation Army.
Go back to Toronto or Canada, whatever it was.
It was Toronto,
yeah.
And then Toronto promptly scored against us, so it was a little lesson there, I'm sure. But yeah, that was a good goal by Insigne. I mean, he made that great unmarked run.
Yeah, he was making a lot more headway in the second half than in the first for whatever reasons. And he is their one of, if not their only DP. So he is their big signing. So kind of that tracks as well.
I thought Bernardeschi was a DP there as well.
He might be, but they did make a lot of hay about the fact that he's a star of some variety. So
yep. But that didn't stop him from taking him off. It looks like around the 85th minute they did pull Insigne.
Yeah,
and 4-1.
Yeah. And the game was kind of back and forth. Toronto was starting to push back. I really felt like the Union were starting to throttle back a bit in the game. That 4-0 lead made things comfortable. 4-1, still comfortable. Couple subs, and then we went to stoppage time. Toronto made it even a little bit more uncomfortable in the 92nd minute where they got their second goal.
Well, fortunately for the Union, 4-goal lead apparently is not as bad a lead as a 2-goal lead.
Yes. Yes.
Well, and it's a little bit what you guys were saying, I believe, last week, which is, it's a dangerous team that has nothing to lose. So they were out there just kind of trying everything, and some of it worked. So,
but it did end 4-2 for the Union.
Yeah, and we needed that win, I think, to get a little bit more wind in our sails.
Yes.
It was nice to dominate. It was just nice to feel like the team was on the field and was running hard, and things were going their way, and the guys were having fun.
Yes,
you could see it, in as the smiles would happen, even when the ball was going out of bounds, even on a tough tackle or whatever. The guys were getting up and they were into the game. They seemed to really be enjoying it.
Yeah, there's that enjoyment. There was that confidence. And when we see the Union play like that, it's not like we're seeing them actualize their potential. It's like, yeah, this is how they can play, and this is how they do play. And, and it's kind of like we've said, and actually one of the announcers said, this is like the 2022 Union again.
Yeah.
Stats wise, stats were pretty typical. Union not having the majority of possession, only about 40%. No surprise, we outshot Toronto. Actually, not as close as I thought it was, it was closer than I thought it was going to be. 18-10 on shots, 7-5 on shots on goal. So I know Blake had to do a couple saves in the game. On paper, it doesn't look as close, with the exception of the score, and that's the most important stat.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting in one of the articles I read, I quoted here, it says Philadelphia has also scored at least 4 goals in a match 10 different times since July of 2022, with no other team doing so more than 3 times. So the Union have done it 10 times. No other team has done it more than 3 times.
I mean, that says something.
That speaks to the firepower. When the Union get rolling, when they get confident, when they get that, hey, we're here to play and have a good time and play it the way we can, they're deadly. They're clinical with those finishes, and they can really run up the score.
Yep.
Yeah. So do we want to review predictions? I mean, we all got it right saying it was a Union win.
Yes. Paul, yours is probably closest with that 3-0.
Yeah, but C was the only one who actually thought that the Union would give one up, but that was just because she's still waiting for that 2-1 victory.
2-1, it's gonna come. It's gonna come.
I'll take 4-2. Well, it really, I got it, because if you reduce 4-2,
it's a ratio of 2 to 1.
Yeah. So maybe.
But at the same point, E predicted a 2-goal victory for the Union.
Yeah.
So we're all right.
Yeah.
We're all right.
Points around.
Yeah. So after that game, Union moved up from 10th to 7th place, which is good.
It's still early.
Still early. Yeah. Good. No, you good, Chris?
No, I was just gonna say also with that game, Dre officially has the most starts in franchise history.
Yes, he does.
So congratulations on that.
Yeah.
He has surpassed Ray Gaddis.
That was gonna be my question. Yeah, it's Ray, right? Yeah.
212 MLS starts.
I don't have the number.
Yep,
that's 212. It is 212. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
Certainly seems like a shoe-in for a Ring of Honor name whenever he decides he wants to retire or move on from playing for the Union.
It's so odd to me because it doesn't, I know he's been there for quite a while. It doesn't feel like that length of time to me, but
I agree.
10 years.
Yeah.
Been there 10 years.
10 years.
It's just, I guess I was too scarred by the early days of keepers.
I was going to say he also came in during the whole Rice, Mboli, Zach McMath era where, suddenly we had 3 starting quality keepers on the Union's team. And it was like, why?
Right.
Why when you have Andre Blake?
Yeah.
I mean, Zach McMath is still playing in MLS and he's having a good season. Yes, I think we made the right choice sticking with Andre Blake, though.
Yeah,
100%.
But it was also, a big week for, a few other Union players. Michael Ora actually not only made the match day team on MLS.com, or MLS Soccer, but he was voted basically the best player of the week. I mean, when you score a hat trick, that's pretty much going to happen.
Yeah. You're going to be a pretty strong contender for that.
Yeah. It's the first Union player to win that honor this season. So far, I don't think we've had more than one player in the match day, the team of the week yet. But he definitely earned that one. But as far as, big weeks, Gazdag joined the 50 club, 50 combined goals and assists, and he did it in 65 games with the Union. That's almost a point a game. That's a really high, performance production rate. Yeah, he's earning his money.
Absolutely.
But I do think the biggest award this week was Martinez. His son was born. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty awesome. I don't know if it's his first kid or not, but Curtin made mention of it in his press conference that, he welcomed the son earlier in the week, and then he comes out there and he played phenomenally.
Yeah,
he shut down the Toronto attack.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He intercepted so many of those passes too in that game.
Mm-hmm. And his distribution looked good in the game too.
Glesnes also welcomed his second son.
Oh wow!
This week?
Yep.
Hey,
Tristan.
Wow.
Yeah. So
congrats to Glesnes too.
It was a little less clear if it was this week, but it was announced
very
this
recent
week. So
hey,
yeah.
Well, congratulations to all the guys there.
That's some of the Union futures. Let's see if those kids stick around.
That's right.
Legacy. That's what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, Union came off a really good weekend, and hopefully this momentum will continue as the Union get ready for their next game, which is tomorrow, Champions League against LAFC. And they're going to be hosting LAFC for the first of the 2-leg game series. We'll be here in Philly. The game is at 9 p.m. tomorrow night on FS1. So that's good. But yeah, LA, man.
Boo from the person who would prefer to go to bed earlier.
Yeah, seriously. Some of us get up early. Friggin' 9 o'clock.
Some of us just run on pure caffeine.
I'm gonna have to check my Weezer day planner to see if so yeah, LAFC. This is definitely rematch vibes. They're coming in, they're third place in the West. They've been racking up the wins. I should say wins, but they're not losing. Right? They drew against Nashville this weekend at Nashville. The previous weekend, or the previous MLS game was at LA Galaxy. They won that 3-2. Their previous stage of the Champions League, they destroyed Vancouver 6-0 on the aggregate. The first game was 3-0 at Vancouver. They had 3 away goals. And then Vancouver came to LA, and then LA beat them again 3-0.
In fact, LA is the only team in the MLS who has not lost a MLS game yet.
Whoa. Yeah, so they got the cred, they got the momentum coming in. This is going to be a non-trivial game, to say the least.
But does anybody really doubt that the Union won't be up to play them on Wednesday on their home turf?
Oh gosh, I mean, losing MLS Cup, I gotta imagine there's going to be a lot of I don't want to say chips on shoulders out there, but
I expect to see some crunching tackles.
I want to see this turn into a classic Philly game. I want to get, it's going to be a street fight. That's what I'm hoping for.
That's what I'm hoping for too. I'm also hoping that they have had whatever their equivalent is of a sports psychologist or someone in the interim who maybe helped with any feelings of maybe I'm projecting, but any feelings of inadequacy that came after, or a disappointment or anything else that came after the loss last year. I mean, obviously there's a hard fought game. People still talk about it as probably the best MLS final ever. How hard fought it was, but I have expressed my concerns about this whole side tournament before. I will admit that when we qualified to move on and play LAFC, I had a little thrill of, oh good, it's a rematch. But we're just picking up steam in the regular season.
Yeah.
So it's not only the fact that this adds more games to the schedule, but now is there a psychological factor and I hate to even put this out there, but I have to because I'm a podcaster. No, but if something does go sideways for us in this and it doesn't go well, is it going to knock us back down for the regular season? At least for a little while.
Yeah.
And I don't want to speak negatively. I want to just be rah but realistically, it's a concern. And I hoping for street fight, but that goes our way.
Exactly.
But realistically, I don't want that to be what really happens. So
see, I actually don't want it to be a street fight. I want it to be like against, I want it to be like the Toronto game, like the Columbus game, where the Union just come out and just put a whooping on LAFC.
Just a clinical dominating.
Especially at home. Just take them out to the shed and just make it very clear this is our house, and you are not going to come in here and push us around, and we are going to dominate you. I mean, I if they can play the way they did on Saturday against this LAFC team, they're good. There's no doubt LAFC is a quality side, but I'm not afraid of them, and the Union players shouldn't be either. And I hope they take it to them. Don't get me wrong. I want to see Martinez level Vela at some point. I want to see, Wagner get in somebody's face. I want to see Carranza, just doing Carranza stuff.
Yeah.
I want them to play aggressively, but in control.
I agree. Yes. I would couch my previous statement. I agree with you, Paul. I want to see that aggressive, but controlled, dominating. And everyone, I want to see Carranza smiling.
So no LAFC, come out and play.
Okay, well, if we're going to go that route, if we're going to go full Warriors, then, yeah.
Yeah, but I hope they do it once they're up 4-0.
Yes,
there you go. There you go. All right, I'll take that.
I don't have any problem with them just making it ugly after, for the last 30 minutes of the game if they're up by a bunch. But I want to see them just show this team. I want them to make a statement win and just tell LAFC and the rest of the MLS that we're not out of this. We belong here, and this is our game. And I think the Union can do that. The big concern I have is whether or not they give up an away goal.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to. I do feel like LAFC just has too much firepower not to do that. As far as predictions, I'm thinking it's going to be a 3-1 Union lead at the end of this home side.
All right. You want to make a prediction?
Oh, I'm scared. I wish I could have Paul's confidence on this. I'm going to go 2-1. I am, but not for the reasons, because I am less confident than Paul, because I do think that there's a decent chance of us giving something up, but because we live in hope, I'm going with 2-1. So it's not just me saying 2-1 because I don't know what else to say. It often is, but
I'm going to go 2-1 too. I'm going to double down on the 2-1.
All right.
I think I'm hopeful for a win. I am couching things a little bit that, LA is going to land a punch, but
hey, at least no Gareth Bale.
Yeah. So no last minute header to send us to PKs.
Well, there's no overtime at this one, but now if it ends up being a 2-1, 2-1 reverse in the next half, that's really where the home, whoever hosts the second game, it does have some advantage, so that if you do go to overtime and then penalty kicks playing at home, there is an advantage to that. So the following Tuesday, then we have the return match in LAFC at LAFC's site, and that starts at 10 p.m. because they really don't want anybody on the East Coast watching the game.
You're just gonna have to nap, Paul. You're just gonna have to nap.
But Tuesday is the day that I have two teams that I'm coaching on Tuesday nights. So it's like there's no time for me to nap. Maybe I'll just take a long lunch or something like that. I don't know.
I guess that's the other thing too. We can decide if you want to do a podcast after the a super late recording after the game. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that.
We'll talk about it. Yeah.
And I know we're a week out and we have no idea what's going to happen in there, but I figure at least I'll throw in a prediction for this one. Sure. If you guys don't want to, don't bother. I honestly think that this is the game that the Union are going to come out and just play to muck it up and just turn this one into a street fight. I think they're going to play pretty at home, and I think they're going to street fight away. So I think it's going to be a 1-1 final in the second game, and the Union are going to win it on aggregate.
I mean, I'll throw out a 2-2. I think it's going to be street fight, but it's going to be each team's going to land a few more punches. Total guess. I mean, at this point, I want to say obviously how the game goes tomorrow, but I'm going to say 2-2.
I have no numbers. I'm just going to say your mouths to God's ears.
Of course, with that said, the LAFC did get a nice little boost from the schedule gods. They originally were supposed to have an MLS game on Saturday between these two CONCACAF games, and suddenly, hey, their game has been moved. Magic.
Man. Come on.
Yeah, it sucks. It absolutely sucks. The Union, I guess I had heard, had actually requested this weekend to be a bye week. The thought was maybe Ernst Tanner was looking into his crystal ball and said, hey, if we get a shot at a CONCACAF semifinal, it's going to be this weekend. So let's get our bye week in here so we have time to rest. And LAFC hadn't done that. And now all of a sudden LAFC gets the benefit of MLS. And I mean, I get the argument that you want the two best teams playing against each other as fresh as possible so you get the best result. But as a Union fan, screw that.
Absolutely. I feel like it's the Philly second fiddle to your New York's and LA. It's like, oh, come on.
Yeah, that truly it is. And next we know they'll be signing Gareth Bale to a one-day contract. I'm just saying.
Oh God. Yeah.
We're not bitter. We're not bitter.
I feel like we're like the Daniel LaRusso to the
you know what? Bring them on.
Yeah.
Bring them on. I mean, if we're going to go ahead and get revenge on them, let's get revenge on them.
Yeah.
Let's show them that Bale shouldn't have come out of retirement for this.
Wheeling Gareth Bale. Let's
convince Rob McElhenney that he doesn't want Bale.
For Wrexham.
Yeah. Bring back Beckham. Go hire Beckham. Bring him in to Wrexham and let do that. He doesn't need Bale. Oh. So yeah, that was a little frustrating to see.
Yeah, it's.
Well, now that we're all annoyed again,
it wouldn't be a podcast if you don't have.
No, but on the whole, I mean, hey, I really think the Union can take it to LAFC. I think we can get some revenge. It's not going to get us an MLS Cup, but at least it'll get us a shot at the final for CCL.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right. Anything else? Did you?
Nope. We covered everything I had.
Okay. Now, if you want to join in on the conversation, you can reach us. You can find us at our website, amorephillyunion.com. You can email us at pod@amorephillyunion. We're on Twitter at amorephillyu. Instagram and YouTube is a More Philly Union. Yeah, you can get us on pretty much all the podcast streaming services, podcasters, I guess, catchers.
Sure, all of it.
All of it, with the exception of Apple. I don't know what's going on.
They haven't
Apple.
completed the ritual yet.
Yeah.
It's still pending. So
yeah, maybe the full moon's not risen yet. I don't know.
So stay tuned. Keep checking, Apple folks. We're just waiting on them.
Yep. So yeah, however you listen to us, tune in. Feel free to subscribe, like, comment, all those fun things. Tell your friends. Again, if we can hit that 1,000 downloads before episode 50, we'll make a donation to the
I like that, the Philadelphia Union Foundation. Sure.
We'll probably, maybe once we figure out how much and all that, we'll get that out there as well to hopefully entice people to join in on our conversation.
Maybe if we can tie it into the number of downloads and how much we beat that 1,000 by.
I like it.
1 penny for every download over 1,000.
And hey, for some reason we're losing subscribers. Okay, everyone. Thanks for tuning in for another episode of A More Philly Union. We are your host. I'm Eric.
I'm C.
And I'm Paul.
Go Union.
Go back.
back to Toronto or Canada, whatever it was.
It was Toronto, yeah.